Welcome back, Ashley. I'm so excited. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Welcome back to the episode, listeners. We are on part two of Don't Rule Out Pinterest Just Yet. The last episode last week was with Ashley. We talked all about Pinterest, and today we're going to cover Tailwind and a little bit more on the whole Pinterest thing. So, if you like last week's episode, you're going to love this one because we're going to talk more about it. And because I am not as familiar with Tailwind, I'm excited to learn with you. So,
Yay.
yeah, so this is exciting. Um, but yeah, let's kind of dive into what are you drinking this morning or
Well,
afternoon, really?
same as last week. I don't like venture out of my comfort zone, you know? So it's the tangerine tea.
Nice.
Yeah,
I
I'm a
scarfed
creature of
down my lunch and now I'm drinking water. So
habit.
I had
Yeah.
caffeine before this morning, so I was like, I probably shouldn't have another cup. So that could be bad. But
It's
yeah.
funny.
But I'm excited to talk all about this. Let's kind of, if they didn't hear the last episode, let's kind of talk about like why, a quick thing about why Pinterest could be important for their business. And like kind of a synopsis a little bit. Why should someone enter the Pinterest world for their business?
So, Pinterest is really amazing because there is a whole pool of people who have no idea that you exist. Unless they follow you on Instagram, which most people don't, not everyone knows you exist on Instagram. It is a
Yes.
great way of tapping into a whole new diverse audience. And what's great is that with Pinterest, it relies heavily on SEO and keywords.
Mm,
So when you are using Pinterest for your business, you are actually putting in keywords that people are searching for. So it is more directly targeting your dream clients and your ideal audience and allow them to convert and discover you.
yeah. I've had experience with some of that a little bit. I talked about in the last episode about one of my posts, my senior post that keeps getting tagged. It's literally like a couple times this week even. Um, but yeah, like I've been trying out Tailwind a little bit, so I'm excited to dive in here. I've been using the free trial for now, or the free whatever you get with that. Kind of moving into that a little bit. I think I just need to take more time to sit down with it.
And
Um,
understand
I
it.
think for a lot of people, if they've used Pinterest, it's a little bit more on their back burner. It's either they like are gung ho or it's on their back burner, and it's like one of their like things where they're like not like so into. Um, so
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna kind of talk about that a little bit and why they should consider using that more, especially with reaching a more broader audience. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think it
And
personally,
long,
like people who want to do like travel photography or destination, like this is a definite thing to do, like
yes, yes.
it's,
And the longevity too of Pinterest is like,
yeah,
you post something on like say Instagram, like a reel, it dies like 24 to 48 hours later.
yeah,
But with Pinterest, like it is always continuously growing. Like the longer you're on the
yeah,
platform using it, the more it will continue to grow and reach more people.
yeah. That is so true because I'm finding things that I even use for the podcast are getting liked or followed and like new people. So if you came over here because you saw something on Pinterest, welcome. That is all thanks to Ashley giving me a kick in the butt to get going on my little roadmap. Um,
Love it.
but let's kind of talk about some of the important things to know about Pinterest that maybe like things I don't think of. I mean, for those that don't know what Pinterest is, let's start there. I mean, everyone
Mhm.
should probably know what that is, but maybe someone doesn't and has never explored that a little bit. Kind of explain what Pinterest is.
So Pinterest is not social media, so it's not like it's TikTok or Facebook or Instagram. It is a visual search engine, so think like Google, but with images.
Mm, yeah,
And so, yeah.
for sure. And let's kind of talk about some important things to note when it comes to Pinterest. Like, there's like a couple things that we have on like that we want to cover today. Um,
Hmm.
let's kind of talk about when scheduling because you can schedule in Pinterest, right? And so let's kind of
But it
talk
caps
about
you. It does cap you at a certain amount. Like you can only schedule a certain amount out, but it does allow you to schedule. Yeah.
Let's kind of talk about how you can schedule in Pinterest, and then let's kind of dive into Tailwind about like the benefits
Mhm.
of that. So,
Yeah.
and like what's limited on Pinterest when scheduling there.
So you can obviously go ahead with the whole process of like uploading your image. Like you hit the plus sign at the bottom and then it uploads, it goes pin and all that, upload the image and you put your pin title, your pin description, all of that. And then you can also put tags in there, which is really helpful as well. And at the bottom, you can always schedule later. I forget the exact like method of that, but you can schedule it
Yeah.
out like weeks in advance as well. But it is limited to I think like maybe like 6 slots.
Mm,
So I usually save those for like idea pins because you create idea pins within the actual app. So
mm,
I always use those for the idea pins and then use Tailwind for the actual pins.
mm. That's good to know. Yeah, because
Mhm.
for me, like we talked about in the last episode about how I was just going into each of my blog posts and I was just, pinning
Mhm.
images from there and like trying to like come up with SEO.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of the lazy way of doing it because I was like, okay, this should help me, right? Like it's better than nothing.
Yeah, yeah. I
um,
mean that is true, but there's also like certain dimensions that optimize your pin. So like if you go into Canva, they have like a type in like Pinterest templates or whatever. They
yeah.
have templates for you, but also they have blank ones, and so you just drag and drop your image onto there, and that optimizes it for the size that Pinterest prefers you to have it because they prefer more of like a vertical versus like horizontal
Mm,
type of like layout for it.
yeah.
So.
Well, let's kind of talk about what Tailwind is per se. Like, is it strictly Pinterest or is it more than that? And then kind of tell us some like key things that maybe that people should know when getting started.
So I believe it is also what you can use to schedule out Instagram as well. I have not used it for that purpose, but I do use it just mainly for Pinterest. I forgot your question
Oh,
already.
you're fine.
I was like,
So
wait, sorry.
like what Tailwind is basically, and
Okay.
like what I mean, it's a really broad question to ask how it differentiates from like scheduling through Pinterest, but kind of tell us like what sets it apart a little bit. Like any like little broad things and we can go down from there.
So Tailwind is directly partnered with Pinterest. They're like besties, and so they kind of communicate with each other very, very well. And so when you are using Tailwind, it allows you to schedule out weeks in advance, but like you can schedule like so many slots per day versus having like just 6 slots in general for Pinterest. So you're able to really schedule out a whole bunch of your pins like a week, 2, 3 weeks in advance and be able to walk away and it puts everything out there for you. And what's also wonderful is that because Tailwind and Pinterest are so directly linked, it is a smart scheduler. And so it generates the slots that you can use for your pins to be distributed. And it is time slots where your audience is most active on Pinterest.
Mm.
So you're able to actually hit them when they're on the app using it, scrolling and looking for you.
No, that's key because I think a lot of times, even when I'm scheduling on social media stuff, when you say it's like gone within 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever, it's good to know that because you want it to show like in the top of someone's feed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that they are like, "Ooh, what's that?" But we're gonna dive in a little bit more into the like nitty gritty of Tailwind, but some of the things that set it apart is obviously they work directly with Pinterest. There are so
Mm-hmm.
many things when I went in there found that I didn't know about and kind of was like, how does this work? So I want to kind of
Yeah.
talk about those too. But
Mm-hmm.
what do you think is most important besides the fact that they partner with Pinterest that sets them apart from like any other scheduler that someone might be like scheduling their social posts with and scheduling like all the other things and they're like, "Oh, I'll just schedule my Pinterest post because that's an option." What makes Tailwind set apart from that?
I think it's also Tailwind communities that makes a big,
Mm,
big difference in like other scheduling platforms.
yeah. Well, and when I first was like, "What's a Tailwind community?" So kind of talk about that
Hmm.
because I'm like, you hear about like Facebook communities, you're like, "Oh, we can join that community." What is a Tailwind community and why is it different as far as like a Facebook community?
Okay, so Facebook is more of like a forum. Like you could have actual conversation. So like someone will post something and you can reply, you can comment, go back and forth. It's a conversation. It is more interaction. It is more like you're building a relationship to a
Mm,
certain extent,
mhm,
kind of. For Tailwind, it's not at all like that. So basically, you would join a community that is filled with people who are related to your specific niche. So photography.
mm,
And only photographers or wedding creatives or whatever are a part of that actual community. And so what happens is when you actually share your or go to pin, schedule out your pin for a pin you're posting on Pinterest, you can click to have it added to your community. And then it goes into like a pool of content. And
mm,
so, say that day you're like, okay, I only have 4 pins of my own, but I want to remain active to grow my Pinterest account, and I
mhm,
want to be able to have 7 pins go out. And because I'm building my account and really invested in growing my account, what do? You would go into your community and you would pull from the pool that other content creators have also put in there of similar content like
mhm,
weddings and florals and all of that, and it goes hand in hand because it really allows you to grow and them to grow as well, and you're helping each other out. But there is no conversation, no discussion. It's just like someone created a board essentially, like on Tailwind, and they're like, here you go, here's all of our content, use what you want. And it helps you to remain active, helps you to grow, but it also
mm.
helps to distribute each other's content and help each other to grow while you're also growing your own account.
Yeah, that's cool. And I was trying to figure out when I was doing it because it gives you like what kinds of things are you interested in? And I was like, am I going to get put together with other educators? And then I was like, am I going to get put together with like school educators, not like photographer
Mm-hmm.
educators? So like kind of talk to us about that when you're kind of trying to pick those groups. Like what is the best practice for that?
So there is a search bar. And so you could type in keywords. They also have keywords at the bottom where you can kind of just click on them. And I usually just scroll through and just look through all of them and see which ones like really kind of light me up or maybe
Mm,
feel like it resonates the most with my client that
yeah.
I'm working with. But you really want to choose ones that have really good engagement. Like if they have like thousands of people and they only have like one bar of engagement, like you don't want to join them because they're not actually like communicating in a sense or like allowing one another to grow. But if you have one that's like three bars or more, that's the best because they're the most active, the most engaged. They're sharing your content, they're putting content in there and all of that. So you really want to have ones that are actually engaging
Mm.
all the time.
So what are these bars you speak of? Kind of tell us a little bit. Like what is this bar?
It's hard to explain. Like it's like an activity bar. I can't. It's like
Is it
visual.
kind of
Um,
like when you have like a battery bar, like it tells like the amount of engagement, or is it?
It's almost like the Wi-Fi where it's like, okay, low connection is one, and then
Mm,
as you go more, kind of like that kind of mindset of it or sense
okay.
of it. But yeah, like one bar is tiny, and then out of nowhere it just grows, and the more
Mm,
that you have engagement, you'll see like it turns it's blue, and so the more lines are kind
interesting.
of filled up. Yeah.
So tell me, like, what is the process of like working together? Are you like pinning their stuff? Are you like scheduling? Like, what does that look like?
So they, like I was saying before, they put it, then they schedule out their pins. They click a button. I forget what, like it's like a little people on the side, on the left side, and it asks you like you want to add communities and which one you want to add it to, and you just go ahead and you put it in there. And I mean, it's filled with thousands and thousands of like content creators. So even if like you can't share every single person's stuff, but
Yeah.
there's no like communication of like, oh, I'll share one for you, can we share one for you? It's just people just scroll through it, and if they feel like it resonates with one of their boards or with their vibe or with a location they shoot at or they want to expand more about venues in a certain area, they'll go ahead. And you can also type at the search bar to the top of the group, the community, to find more like in your area or to
Mm,
find more like elopements or something like that to get more specific about it. But I will say the one downfall of communities is that it loads. It takes a long time to actually load. So you're
Mm.
thinking it's your internet. It's not your internet. It is the actual like community center of Tailwind
It's
where I'm like,
growing
what
so
is
fast.
taking so long? Yeah, where I'm like, oh my God. But it's not your internet. It's for sure Tailwind and communities.
That's good to know. I'm always thinking everything is my internet because I'm always like, why
You're
is
like, I
this
have
so
the worst
slow?
internet ever. Only on this
Oh, I
page.
love it. So, let's kind of talk about the different things you can do in Tailwind other than communities. So you can schedule out your groups. Now, there's different options in here. I'm looking through Tailwind right now, so I can kind of talk about like the
Way to
creation
cheat.
mode.
Okay.
um,
Way to
so
cheat.
my internet slows down. It's what? No, I'm just kidding. So
I
when
mean, it
you
probably is.
So it lets you like drop in photos. So like as a photographer, like I could drop in my photo to create a post or something like that. And it kind of like creates like templates and stuff you can use, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
like what do you suggest? Is it like where that is best or like how do I use ones that I've created myself? Let's say I created something in Canva and I want to upload it in there.
It, dep- it
How do,
depends on what version you have. They have
okay.
like a new publisher that they have out.
Mm,
But there's like the original publisher. That's what I usually use, and I usually give my links to like my clients, like use this one whenever like I'm done with them. Like use this one. It's more easier to access and like to
mm,
use. But they have at the top right of like where they have, if it's the old scheduler, they have at the top right, they have a plus sign and it says like add pin, I believe.
mm.
Do you have those scheduler on you or
I
no?
don't think that's what I'm looking at. So,
Yeah, that one, I always kind of like, I'm sorry, I kind of cheat and go back to the old one because it's just easier to navigate. It's like user friendly, so I always go back to that. So it's above like where they show all the pins you scheduled out. At the top of it, they have like a plus sign for you to add pins, and it brings you to the drafts. And then
oh,
you would go
nice.
ahead and you would put like what board you want it to be on. You would put what the pin title is. You'd also put the description
Nice.
in there, and you'd also go ahead and put your URL, destination URL, and then you can add communities and you can add it to the queue and then drag around wherever you want to have it in that day.
Well, it is nice too. Like, it kind of saves you the step of having to go into Canva because you can upload like all of your brand settings, like your logos, your colors, your fonts, all that kind of stuff. So, like, when it's
Mhm.
just auto creating stuff for you to choose from, it kind of is nice. Like, especially for those of us who are like, I don't have time to do all that. Like, I just need to put a
Yeah.
thing in and like create it for me. Um,
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that feature and like kind of know and it kind of it like auto populates the sizing for you so you don't have to guess what sizing you should have, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Um what are your thoughts on like the ghostwriter? Like do you find that that is helpful? Do you find that that is like not as helpful? Have you used the ghostwriter yourself?
No, I don't. I don't. There's just there. So AI is great, but there are downfalls of anything,
Mm,
and there's research involved in like creating a great pin description. It is not just like writing about the day.
mm,
You know, AI can't do keyword research and do all of that for you to be able to have that into your pin description. It also, and like there's like a call to action you have to have. There's also
mm,
like a description about like what the image looks like or what it's about. And then it's also just like having keywords throughout that honestly a ghostwriter or AI just can't do for you and
mm.
can't be as hands-on. And you also lose that element of like your voice, your
Yeah.
tone, how you speak, how your personality comes across. Like you lose that when you are working with like the ghostwriter.
That's true. I love that. Because that is something where I'm like, oh, I don't need to know how to do. Sometimes I feel like you can use it and then like you're like, oh, that's where it went and like retype it to sound better. But that would be like I guess a positive way to use the ghostwriter, but at the same
Yeah.
time, yeah, it like
Any
definitely takes
AI.
your voice out of your brand in some ways. And I know for you, you write blog posts, correct? So like
Yes.
that's something where you're like, yeah, let's have your brand, your voice, those kinds of things because it's
Mm-hmm.
easy to lose that with AI. And honestly, like I used AI to like even do like a podcast show note. One time my friend was like, it said speaker one. And I was like, yep, I totally tried AI with that one this time. I was like, can you tell? I was testing it
That's
out,
so funny.
and yeah, I was like, definitely needs to be edited from there. So
It's so
AI is
funny.
not bad by any means, and I have
No.
Scott from Imagen, who's going to be on the podcast soon and talk about that in a positive way. But yeah, for this instance, like you definitely want your own voice in there,
Yeah.
and kind of go through that. Kind of can you tell us about Smart Loop? Because I was looking at that and I was like, okay, like what? I'm like, I got to ask Ashley about this.
I have notes. Okay.
Okay.
So, so it lets you take advantage of the seasons and pinning content over and over again
Mm,
that will be relevant to your audience. And so it really allows you to introduce content to your audience, whether they are brand new followers or they've been
mm,
following you for a while, like reintroduce it and put it in front of them when it makes like the most sense and when it's doing well. And also, I feel like a few core or a pillar blog posts that you are super valuable or educational, it's good to have those on a smart loop too, so people will always come back to those and always
mm,
see those. But the more often your content is shared, the more Pinterest kind of knows like who you are all about, and it
mm.
helps you to be more consistent as well. So
Yeah.
just a different way of scheduling, really. I mean, it's yeah,
Okay. Yeah, because I was trying to figure out, and you've talked about like the fact that you can repin and schedule like the same pins further out, like reuse the content you have because you're going to get new eyes as time goes on, for sure. So yeah, like, can you remind us? I mean, we talked about this in the last episode, but again, if someone hasn't listened to that one yet, can you
the
remind everyone
audacity,
why was that?
the audacity to skip ahead.
Yeah, go back and listen to that one first. No, you might want to because we're kind of continuing on from that. But can you remind everyone why like pinning a bunch of pins all at once might not be like the best idea, like if they're just starting? So like let's say I'm starting it and I'm like, oh, here's a week, I'm just getting in, I'm gonna post like 7 to 10 times a day. Like, why would that not be the best idea to start that way? And then all of a sudden, like a week later, I'm like, oh, I don't have time for this. Like, I'm gonna take a break and I'll come back to it later.
Well, consistency is like very much key. And so to remain active is a big deal on Pinterest, to constantly be active, but that doesn't mean pinning like 15, 20, 30 times a day. Um, and if you do end up pinning excessively, Pinterest will flag you as spam because they're like, what are you doing? Who are you? Like, what is going on? You've gone from 0 to 100 so quickly. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So they will flag you and stop showing your content to people within your audience or people in general because they don't know what you're doing. They don't know what you're about. And they're trying to just like figure out why you're pinning so much all at once. And it
Mm,
takes quite a bit to get out of like, I've heard, to get out of like spam jail where they're like,
mm,
okay, we believe you now. Like it's a little bit of a process. And
yeah.
so I think slow and steady is definitely the way, like 3 to 5 at first, and then bump it up and just see how it evolves over time and see how your numbers reflect that, how your audience is growing, how like
Mm.
your impressions, your engagement, all of that, and then slowly kind of just start to increase as you go on.
No, that's good. Cause yeah, and that's something I struggle with too is like, okay, I need to find a day to like make this more consistent, but like draw it out a little bit in the beginning so it doesn't like seize up on me. I keep getting that
Yeah.
on Instagram because there'll be times where I'm like, oh, I want to post two in one day, but I want to schedule it. And then it's like, you can't comment on anything because yeah, it gets mad at me.
No.
And I'm like, oh, they're
Yeah.
flagging me again. It's like just life. Like, don't you realize this is my like how I work? It was just kind of funny, but yeah, it's kind of funny in that way. Um, yeah. So in like talking about Tailwind, um, and kind of like the features it has, have you used like the email marketing of that? Like, tell me about
That's
that a
not.
little.
I don't offer that as a service, so I
Okay.
don't touch on that. Yeah,
Yeah.
mine's strictly like blogging, and it has been now I do website copy revamping, which
Nice.
happened out of nowhere. And I also just happened. And then I also do Pinterest. So like I kind of stick to that, and I don't really do email marketing because I don't have that in a package or
Yeah.
yeah.
So I know that's like an option in Tailwind. So if you're like, oh, I don't have like an email marketing, that is an option for you. Um, that's I use Flowdesk personally for
Same.
myself, so I don't use Tailwind for that, but it is an option. Let's kind of talk about the insights and why that can be helpful as opposed to like
Mhm.
using Pinterest and things. Tell me about Tailwind and like the things you like seeing with the insight options.
So I feel like the insights are very, very similar to the Pinterest ones. Like they aren't too far off. They're pretty much in sync because they are partnered together. So they're not going to be too different. I don't think I've ever checked somebody's analytics on their actual like on here we go. It's gonna load forever, but on their on their Tailwind. Yeah,
Hmm.
so impressions are basically how many people have come across, like have seen your content on like the homepage. Saves are how many people have actually saved it to their board. Pin clicks are people who have decided to go ahead and like click on the pin to view it further. Maybe they're looking at your caption or your description, whatever it's called. And they're also going ahead and just kind of learning more about it. And then outbound clicks are where they're going from Pinterest onto your website.
Hmm. I love that.
So,
Yeah, I definitely haven't looked through it on there, but that one post I was talking about, even just from like the first day I posted it, I think I have um I'm looking at the analytics right here. There's like over 2,000 impressions, which is a lot for me. Like it might not be for a lot of people, but that's a lot for me. Especially when I like didn't use it a lot, but there's definitely like there's 77 clicks on it. And this is from the last year and a half. And yeah, there's just a lot more engagement with it, and it's just funny how I find like more and more people are clicking it. Um but yeah, do you find like there's a primary age group with Pinterest? Do you find that that's not really relevant
you
when
can
someone's
actually
thinking about like what to pin?
you can actually go into Pinterest and look at your analytics, and they tell you their age of them.
Mm,
Like you can go into audience, and it tells you like their ages. Like one account I'm logged into, their age is 18 to 24. As the second most popular for her audience, the other one is 25 to 34, and the other ones are smaller. It shows you like her female is ratio is 74.59%. So you can kind of just go into that. But I don't really take too much into account as far as like she's a wedding photographer. So obviously, usually
mm,
for the most part, like it's brides or it's obviously grooms too. But um but yeah, it's not like a very like it's not like it's like a clothing company where it's like female
yes.
only where it's like
You're like, I need to do these for these people. Um,
yeah.
and like kind of talk about like what is ideal when you're like picking types of pins, like because you want to reach not everybody likes like one design, right? Like in like the
Mhm.
copy. So like what do you suggest when someone's pinning and let's say they're using Tailwind? Like how many different options do you think you should pin on like one different or like one specific topic? Maybe they're like they have one blog post. Like how many different types and how let's say someone's getting started. I know I keep like adding onto this question.
Oof.
Someone's just getting
Okay.
started with Tailwind and Pinterest, and they're like, I want to
Mhm.
pin the senior session. How many pins would you suggest them creating, and how many should they schedule out if they're just getting started?
So I just went through my clients yesterday, and so I created for one blog post I created 7 pins for her. Because you can use them in multiple words, and you can also go ahead and you can also use different images. So like you can share Tailwind Pinterest loves there you go. Pinterest loves to have fresh content. Fresh content is new URLs
Mm,
and new images. So if you have the same URL, you can create different images for it. And so I go ahead and I usually create like it's like 7, but hers were single images, which are really good for like to inspire
mm,
people, to see like what kind of content you create, how you edit, things like that, like what they can expect to receive when they're working with you or hiring you. And there's also pin graphics. And I usually do, I mean, I think I do sometimes like 4 different kinds of pin graphics, but I usually split test it, so I'll do two of one title, and then I'll revamp the title and do two of another, and have completely different designs and colors and schemes and images.
Mm.
Just kind of split test it and see what works the best for her audience and what people actually want to click on. Because one person might love one might like the other one, and so it's kind of getting people from different areas to click onto it and be like, oh my god, I love this image, it's so pretty, but over here, not so much. It might not apply. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah,
yeah.
you want to like pick all different types of audiences and see what resonates, and I think that's good, but it's always like overwhelming, like how many should I try? What types of things? So you would suggest like imagery and maybe text, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
like just text and not with.
No.
Okay, so what would you
So
suggest there?
I use it at Canva, Canva, and I my go-to, and I type in the search bar like Pinterest templates, and then a whole bunch will come out. And so with Canva, you can actually like put your branding
Mm-hmm.
information in there. So you could put like your text, you could use your image, your colors, all of that, your logo, everything. But so I always just kind of use whatever they have there. I customize it to my client, and it usually has like text boxes on it, but you put images in there as well. You could choose between like sometimes like 1 and 5 images, depending on the template, and you kind of just put the images in there and then customize everything around it and have like, so say for instance, my one client had a pin about 5 reasons why Zion National Park is perfect for destination elopement. I can have the words on there and people can actually see what it's about more up close
Mm,
and know what to expect. And then sometimes those actually stop people in their tracks more than just an image does, because
yeah,
it's very, very different when you're scrolling through a whole bunch of images where it's just like single image pins. Then you have like words, you're like, oh, wait a second, what is this? And it makes
yeah,
people know what it's about, know what to expect. It solves their problem, gives them a solution, it inspires them. They click on it more often because they need to know what your blog is going to say.
yeah. I agree, because I've done that a couple times where it's like, yeah, that means more, that's going to be more of a capture. And you can even do stuff that's not your title and say like something else that's like, and I do that in the podcast episodes where I
Mm-hmm.
would say, like, for this one, like, why Tailwind is better use than any other platform to schedule Pinterest, like,
Yep.
um,
Playing with wording. Yeah.
like stuff that will like hook. It's almost like clickbait, but not
I mean,
like
really, it is though. I
deceiving.
mean,
Yes.
yeah.
um, and kind of going through there. So, what would, like, if someone wanted to really invest in Tailwind, like, what are the options as far as pricing that you know of? So, like, I know there's like free, like, I can't remember how many. I think you
You
get
get
like,
20 pins.
okay, you get like 20 pins for free. And then
Mhm.
what would you say is like their price point on there as far as like
So
for someone getting started?
typically I recommend the pro version of Tailwind,
Mm,
and it's $14.99, and it allows you to schedule out 200 posts, whether it's
mm.
there's Facebook too. So Instagram, Pinterest, or Facebook. So yeah, I usually go with that one for my clients because I mean, they don't really need 1,000 posts and they don't really
Yeah.
need unlimited. We're not going that crazy. But I usually recommend the pro version, and it's $14.99 a month for 200, which is really good.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I think about like the fact that I use like another program and I schedule that stuff anyway. So it's like if something's going to be better for Pinterest, but also work for those other two, it's kind of a no-brainer, like switch to that,
yeah,
a
yeah,
little bit
yeah,
cheaper than some other programs as well. And so, yeah, and it's visual. So, win-win for photographers.
yeah, really.
um, so kind of tell me about some examples in your work of how Pinterest has helped your clients in Tailwind in their
Words.
strategy.
Yeah, so I have a client, and she initially, before working with me, she was a birth photographer,
Mm,
as well as a local wedding photographer. And she came to me because she was like, I really want to change my niches completely, like do a
Mm.
complete overhaul. I'm moving in directions. And so she decided she wanted to do underwater photography,
Oh,
which is so
cool.
fun to blog about and so fun to just like to create pins for. Oh, I love it. And also she wants to do elopements. And so I ended up creating pins for her. I'm still working with her. She's still growing and doing beautifully. Um, but what's amazing is like it's such a great boost to help you to get into those niches
Mm.
because you're going full force and you're using keywords that people are already searching for.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're trying to find your client per se, like they're finding you and you're just like, here I am. And it's really helped her to grow and to have more like people coming into her website and checking her out and wanting to learn more about her. It's been really great. And like it's also so good too. Like if you are like more location based and you're just starting out, not everyone knows that you exist because like
Right.
not everyone follows you on Instagram. And so now you're breaking into a whole like new audience and you're able to kind of attract people in a different way who didn't know that you were a photographer and that you were
Yeah.
on the market for them. So it's been so great for them to just be able to scale their business and expand and get more inquiries and get more bookings and just be able to be in front of people who are actually looking for them.
No, I agree. That's so key. And I think a lot of times photographers are like, how do I do elopements? How do I get weddings here? How do I move my business to another state, another country? Like these are tips that you can use to start off with to build that audience before that even happens or while you're wanting it to happen. I think that's great. This is another way to like kind of move into that direction, especially when
Mm-hmm.
things are changing. I know Facebook used to be the way where people would join groups from like those areas, which is still an option, but this is another tool that you can use to kind of get your name out there and move forward. So that's always good. Were there
Yeah.
any other examples you wanted to share?
No.
I
No.
love it. Yeah, I need to see her work. My friend is always like, I need to get an underwater camera. She's like, I need the case for my camera so I can do. I'm like, I want to see underwater dog photography because I think it's
Could
hilarious.
you imagine?
I'm like, it is the most hilarious thing ever. Like, just like dogs in action, crack me up. But um,
With their ears.
Ashley also has a affiliate link that you can use for Tailwind. So if you're trying it out and you want to use for link, I will link it in the show notes so you can have that. But Ashley, where else can we find you on the web if someone's like, I need help with my blogging, I need help with my Pinterest, will you do it for me? Like, where are
Oh
all
my
the
god, yes. Yes.
where can we find you?
So on Instagram it would be it's Ashley, so Ashley, the traditional way, and then Brazier, Braz as in zebra, IER, and then same thing for my website. It's Ashley. Well, it would be ashleybrazier.com. So
I love that. Oh my goodness. And if you want to find the podcast socials, you can find us on TikTok and Instagram at Cameras and Coffee Podcast. You can also find our website to find past episodes and past show notes at KaraHanesPhotography.com/podcast. If you loved this episode or the first episode, we want to hear what you liked about it, what you gained as far as knowledge. So head over to your listening platform, leave a review. I would love to hear. We give you out free content every week. So it'd be nice to know what you're loving so we can bring more to you. But yeah, this concludes part 2. Ashley, thank you again for coming
thank
on and
you.
sharing all of your knowledge. It's been
It's been fun.
great. But yeah, until next time, my friends, I want to say cheers.